You have not long got off the plane from the US, hanging out with all the beautiful people. Apart from looking at some of the television shows, what are the big key themes that are occupying the minds of the broadcast and studio executives over there from your last trip?
Yes, there was a lot of beautiful people, and we tried to meet them all in regards to the second, and we were delighted to come home with about 5 what we would consider hit shows, which is wonderful, led by the remake of Hawaii 5.0, which is probably the best product we saw out of the screenings. We even spent a couple of days in Silicon Valley with Cisco, understanding what is the future, particularly in IP world, of the placement of content and how that can actually affect our industry. So the US is spending a lot of time on it. I'm not sure if they're as progressed as some other sectors in the world, particularly through the European territories, but certainly there's a lot of discussion and chatter, and I think that will drive momentum.
In terms of distribution, you're saying the US is not as progressed in terms of alternative distribution platforms? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's more in terms of the thinking and practicality of taking a strategy to market. So I think what we're seeing, particularly out of Europe and the UK, is that they're actually physically doing it. And we're seeing a lot of examples of them taking content, monetising that content in a very coordinated fashion and putting that to the consumer. In the US, there's a lot of discussion about that. But one thing the UK is doing, and the US are doing it as well, is certainly on a triple screen basis. We're seeing some major steps forward. Of course, not only is rights management important, but measuring that activity and then making that a stable platform of measurement that you can put back either in an aggregated sense or at least back to the market to fashion what is occurring with the consumer is vital as well. We've seen that in the outdoor industry, with the invention of Move. I think that'll legitimise the platform of out of home more so than a lot of the developments in the last couple of years just on the physical space. So rights management and measurement are very important. We're seeing that being exercised quite well in the UK. And certainly we've come across content where people would like more for the online rights than the broadcast rights. Right. And we've passed on that because there is no economic model to do it. So then the market will say to us, well, why isn't that content available online? Because there's no good economic reason to invest in that. And frankly, we'll either leave it until some sensibility comes into that conversation, or potentially another party may do it. That could be a telco or someone else, or they'll do it themselves.
So the fact that you're in the US talking to Cisco about IPTV, that's an interesting little exercise in itself. What came out of that?
Part of that was IP, and they could put out 1,000 channels from the back room, and we saw it happening. IPTV, in a broadcast spectrum, free-to-air environment, we know how many channels we can effectively deploy with the spectrum that we own. Beyond that, do we have an appetite to take those brands, other brands that are associated to that, or unique brands to market in IP capacity? Absolutely. And I think we've got an eye on the future to say, can we have another 40, 50, 100 channels? What we want to do is have content hubs that go across multiple platforms regardless of the platform that we're heading across and regardless of the device that's receiving them. I think there's a lot of appetite from our end to extend the brands that we have. We have 10 and 1 as 2 very, very strong brands.
Next week on AdNews Influencers.
3D is different. You actually have to set up a new truck, new cameras, new people. So you actually have a dual or parallel cost centre.